We are rolling into day 3 of the Contenders Korea Fall Series, so it only makes sense that we'd extend things. 2 games was nice, a tight, quick night. Now we got 3 games for you to match the amount of days that we've been live for, and it's myself, Paulsable, and Lafon, bringing you all of them.
What it's been, even though it's been a quick few days, it hasn't been, there has been some pretty interesting things happen all the way throughout as we kind of look back early. Even first day starts off with Panthera, Poker Face, both of whom will make an appearance today, but that was an absolute, I was going to say barn burner, but it wasn't. It was a stomp. Poker Face kind of ran.
It should have been a barn burner. It should have been a very close match. Panthera still figuring out the new meta. That's right, folks. If you missed the first 2 days, don't worry. They were pretty quick. A lot of 3-0s. But we are on the new patch. We are on the live patch here. Preview of what is to come potentially for the future of Overwatch competitive. So we haven't seen a lot of Zarya. We haven't seen a lot of Genji, a lot of Sojourn, but some teams aren't quite happy with that. Panthera very much one of them with one.
Yeah, and also coming in from Mr. FM, another team that wasn't, particularly fond of the Zarya look. Another highlight actually is we've seen a lot of Midtown played, and for the most part, it actually has been a Sigma mirror there. So
Sure.
the first thoughts, oftentimes when we talk about a new meta, like the majority of the maps you're going to play quote unquote what is correct, and then there's a couple of outliers, like I know Circuit Royale in the past has been one where Sigma mirror tends to be the play. But I think right now, while the Zarya is mostly favored, there is an element of both comfort and map geometry that plays in a ton. We've seen Winston, we've seen a little bit of dive, mostly from FM, but it hasn't been sort of a one-trick note all the way through.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And when it comes to Panthera, we'll get a hold of them later. We'll phone them up, see what's going on, or we'll just get them to play because they're on the schedule. But either way, that was day number 1. Day number 2 was pretty interesting. Dreamers versus Lemix. Lemix put up, admittedly, more of a fight than I personally anticipated.
Yeah,
still a 3-0 though.
still a 3-0, but I also think it was clearly a team that was identified what their strengths were. Keep in mind, Lemix coming in from the WDG Open. They've played a lot on this patch in regards to the expected meta. Heard from them what their strengths are in terms of what they like. But amusingly enough, Lemix, one of the few teams who's already played 2 games, opening up with a Zarya meta, they come in with an Orisa on the second day. So Lemix clearly not quite comfortable running the aggressive duo with the Genji Zarya sort of set up in the front line. They tried to make the Orisa work. It did to a certain extent. Unfortunately, just not enough to close out against Jasmine, a new addition to Dreamers, and as well as Sad and Top Dragon holding down that front line.
Yeah, and then at least yesterday we did get one close match, right? Or at least closer than the first 3, right? We got that 3-1 between FM and Revival. FM, the only team to run a Winston so far. It didn't do so hot on the first map. Map 2, they swapped to Winston, and then go, oh, well, this works better than what we were doing, so let's just stick with that. Don't fix what ain't broke. And, it is Contenders Korea, Lafon. If somebody can run a Winston will be run at some point. Let's take a look at our group stage. This is the format, folks. We got 5 teams coming back from the Overwatch League knockouts and 5 up from the WDG Open, split into 2 groups of 5. First in each group gets a bye to the second round of playoffs, so they'll be just 1 game away from making the grand finals, which is on land. The other 2, second and third, will have to battle it out. And of course, if you make 4th and 5th, Lafon, you're not going to make it to playoffs.
Eliminated in group stages, so that is and something that is actually in contention today, right? Losing out here for a couple of teams would be not ideal because it puts you in a very, very difficult place in terms of playing catch-up as we gotta get into it. So yeah, very, very important to kind of get your wins out early so that you have a little bit more buffer room, and as we said, into single elimination for the playoff bracket, into that one. So it's gonna be a little bit interesting because I think that the groups aren't as top heavy as you may expect coming into the season, right? Looking at, the team coming in from the OWL knockouts, and then teams coming from WDG Opens, you expect, okay, maybe the top seeds are going to be a little bit stronger, and the bottom seeds maybe struggle a little bit. I don't think that's necessarily been the case this patch. It has been a little bit more even though it has been mostly 3-0. So getting your wins out early now before everyone kind of solidifies themselves in the meta, identifying what their strengths are, is going to be, I think, a better position to be in than struggling for those wins later on down the road.
And with 5 teams in each group, 2 is sort of the magic number to at least probably get into playoffs, right? It's not 100% guarantee at 2 wins, but you're looking pretty good. if you manage to get 2 on the board. 3 is great, and of course, if you can win all 4 of them, you're not only getting into playoffs, but you're going to get first seed in your group, because that's how math works. We can do caster math on occasion, but we have a lot of teams not only fighting for that second win today in our first match, but also fighting to avoid a second loss. 2 losses is not ideal. Not ideal. No. If you look at 3 losses, there's no guarantee that you are making it into groups. So with only 4 games played for each team, yeah, you can take a look at who really needs the win today. I'm looking at you, Lemix, and Panthera. Honestly, if Panthera were to drop their game today, it would be a very tough situation for them.
I mean, an upset too, right? 0-1 are the only teams that hasn't played yet. So there is still a position. I mean, Group A is kind of shaping up to be very interesting towards the end of the season. But I mean, the big question is going to, of course, be Panthera, right? A team that did not conform to what was expected coming in based on theory crafting, based on scrims, based on previous tournament results. And we saw how well it turned out, which is that it didn't. And this is a big question mark game for them. I think all the pressure is, in fact, on Panthera, and Zero is likely going to be able to kind of just take it easy and kind of move on from there. Group B, of course, will also round out our last games played. So everyone in Group B will have played at the end of today as well. So that being said, I mean, I think after today, we'll get a sort of general power ranking of where we expect teams to finish off the season. And at the very least, I think the questions that we have about which teams are sort of a real problem or the ones that are expected to be in that first place position will at least be resolved.
I mean, at the very, very, very least, we'll at least get to see all 10 of our teams once already at the end of today. Euphoria, SBG, and Zero. We haven't seen any of those 3 teams play yet, so a lot going to be learned in our second 2 games. We're going to learn if Panthera really have a good chance of making playoffs at all, despite being one of the teams from the knockouts, in those top 5 seeds. But we started off with a battle for potentially first in the group of Group A. PokerFace and FM, they're the 2 teams in that group with a win thus far. And if you win here today, it's pretty likely you're going to take the entire group.
And I mean, this is also going to be an interesting conversation in terms of style, right? PokerFace, they look like they could handle anything that was thrown at them, right? PokerFace, we know they're very capable on a dive, but the fact that they went over to the Zarya in that first game and won it so handily against, a team as vaunted as Panthera means that I think FM are going to actually struggle here today, right? FM, they went back to comfort picks most of the time yesterday, playing a lot of the Winston, putting Gurio on Sojourn, trying to play to those comforts, and realistically coming in here, it's going to have to be FM really dialing in if they're going to focus on this Winston composition against PokerFace, a team that is expected, I think, to be the #1 seed in Group A.
Could also end up being that Winston comp was just an adaptation to yesterday. We'll have to see how that plays out when we get familiar with FM a little bit more in this meta. But first things first, we got to talk about the big dogs on campus, right? Or I guess the big dogs at the poker table, right? Playing some Texas Hold'em. We got PokerFace rolling in here. An interesting look for them today. Finale, Valentine, Muse, Lego Simple. I mean, if you've been around Contenders Korea, all of these names should be familiar. If you've been watching the Overwatch League, Muse and Finale, at the very least, should be familiar to you. But it's odd to see Finale and Valentine both starting as they play with a very similar hero pool.
They do, and actually yesterday as well, or sorry, day 1 is where PokerFace didn't actually have both these 2 playing at the same time, right? That was kind of the curious setup. Proud, in fact, was the one who kind of had that marker, though. As we move over to FM, I mean, here is another interesting, I'm talking about interesting DPS lineups. Yeah. Gurio and Yappen, who did not play yesterday at all, makes his debut this season in Contenders Korea. So for both these squads, the DPS core is a little bit odd coming into this first game. We'll see if that is dependent on map, though, as we build later on into the rest of the series.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, so much talent on this team too. FM, they took 3rd in the WDG Open, but then they got some serious upgrades. Slime, Docs, Gurio coming on in. Gurio and Slime with some Overwatch League experience, some titles in the Overwatch League, albeit stage or season. Unbelievable upgrades here for FN, and it makes them a very scary threat. We saw yesterday, despite that Winston composition still being a little bit outside of what we think the norm will be, still very early days in this meta, the calls from FM were just sublime, right? And you have to imagine a lot of that is because of the experience of guys like Slime and Gurio.
Yeah, very quick is kind of the marker there. And one thing we've complained about in the past is teams when they play aggressive compositions, especially ones that are suboptimal in terms of power levels in the meta, that they don't actually execute quickly. That was not a flaw that FM had. Of course, though, that was against the WDG Open team. Now they go against a team that is performing very, very well. We'll see how well that holds up as we start off on Control Ilios, the first selection.
I think this gives us a little bit of insight as to why we see some change-ups in the DPS pools for both of these teams. Now, Finale and Valentine still befuddles me a little bit. I don't know, they're running some kind of like Echo Genji or something. I don't know what's going on there, man. But it at least makes sense. Ilios, in terms of what DPS are consistently viable here, I find it's one of the greater outliers in our pool of control maps.
Yeah, I do think that, you know, for PokerFace specifically, I think we're expecting to see a flyer, a flanker frontline or GPS core, double flanker even, I think is a possibility. The curiosity comes now in because it is asymmetric in the setup. It's not going to be, it is unlikely to be a mirror composition. This also kind of plays into that. So Ilios plays differently than a lot of control maps, and on top of that, it's against a team that you know is probably not going to open up with the Zarya. That makes, I think, converts it even further into why these DPS cores are going to be the way they are.
Oh man, PokerFace saw Docs play the Winston yesterday and said, oh, you know what, maybe I can get in on that. Maybe that kind of tastes good. Let's get her moving. We start off on Well and FM. Again, you know, we've seen the Orisa composition rear its head some. A lot of teams in Contenders Korea aren't convinced this comp is dead despite the nerfs to Orisa. Gurio Yapin out here with Soldier 76 and the Bastion. Not a bad ante to stop it up. Just started off, but not one that's punishable.
And this is that flyer flanker comp we're talking about on PokerFace's side, though, right? Echo into Tracer, both firmly within the wheelhouse of Finale and Valentine, less so in terms of crowd. Another good ante here. Yapin can't get into that configuration tank early. That's going to buy time for PokerFace to surround and conquer.
Yeah, another problem for FM's comp is how do they get on top of PokerFace, right? They sort of have to wait for PokerFace to come to them. Muse does go a little bit deep, getting just the one pick on Gurio. Can Finale make up the deficit? It's pretty hard to when you're being counteracted by Docs on the Orisa here. Both teams just taking pot shots at each other, but FM keep off the point long enough that the first cap goes to PokerFace despite not having a tank.
Well, I mean, the big problem here is that if without Gurio to kind of put pressure onto Valentine, Yapin can't actually take space. The sticky bombs are so easy to put pressure onto the Bastion. And on top of that, I mean, Gurio's just getting chased down.
And this rotation's so long for FM. They do get on top of Simple eventually, and a nice immortality field keeps Yapin up through that pulse bomb. So FM with an advantage now, and they're looking to snowball it. On to Lego they go, but nobody's helping Docs get rid of that Brigitte. Meanwhile, Muse and Finale are feasting. And I don't really know if this air matrix is going to be enough. Finale dashes right on through it, keeps the pressure on KHD. Eventually, FM worm their way back and get some percentage on the board. But PokerFace aren't giving this up just yet.
This is with this duplicate. Yeah, Yapin is not going to survive. There's no configuration tank available, and so this is actually going to be a staggered play out. Despite PokerFace losing percentage on the point, it's not. The respawns are going to be faster here for PokerFace.
Man, Docs really just wants to run Simple down. I mean, he is the least mobile of this composition by quite a bit, but it's so far to go kitty corner across that objective. PokerFace are more than happy to pick up the slower members of FM.
I mean, one of the things now is you kind of want Yapin to be on a different character, right? You're just not getting enough value on this Bastion to burst down any individual target. PokerFace are not playing this in a dive setup, right? It's more of an all-out skirmish, and I can't really say that it's the wrong play, because again, look, Gurio forced to run away, and all that while, PokerFace are still building percentage on the point.
Not a bad ult from Yapin. Oh, but an even better one from Finale. There's just no way you're pushing without KHD right now. Look how confident Muse is, too. He's got a primal. He's not afraid of potentially getting beamed down by the Bastion. And that turret form, that's so far from the objective to try and gain space and progress. Everybody from PokerFace is fine. It cost FM quite a bit to even get there. We're at 80% already. PokerFace, the only ults they've used, I think this whole map, has been the duplicate once and then a couple pulse bombs. Here comes Muse in with the Nano too. Got a primal, he'll pop it, try to isolate KHD. Couldn't quite find him up top, but he'll double back for Yapin and then finish off the Baptiste of FM. Gurio trying to make something happen with this tack visor, but it's shut down promptly. And PokerFace get a pretty confident first round.
Make no mistake about it, that 21% doesn't actually count as any meaningful progress onto the objective. I'd also like to highlight, you know, no shade to Yapit in terms of actual performance, but it's not being set up for success, right? Bastion has nothing to shoot at. The range, it's either the range is too far because the Echo is going to be able to poke in from afar and then duck down behind cover before you can actually do anything with your damage throughput. And then even if you do get close, by that time you've already had your cooldowns forced, and so you're just a sitting duck, which the Tracer and Ana can combo to clean up pretty easily. And all the while, I mean, you can see Muse is not hiding where the Bastion is, so you have very, very little value earned. And for FM, I mean, they go to the Orisa expecting this Zarya, I think, and just end up getting countercomped with perfection.
Now FM, they're going to go back to what was working for them yesterday. A Winston and flanker comp of their own right. Well, the difference here is actually the main tanks, Muse, for the wrecking ball here upon Lighthouse. A little bit less consistent, but it gives him some chance. I mean, you know, you can have some cheeky knocks off the edge, I guess. Ooh, Simple taking so much damage, but Dox goes down first. No follow-up, no coordination from FM. They couldn't get on to Simple at the same time.
I mean, the big difference in this composition is that Muse is not going to die as easily as Dox, right? And that means the back line for PokerFace can self-sustain rather than worry about anything else. And look at that. I mean, Slime dead, KHD now on an island isolated, and PokerFace are entirely free to just clean up the remainder of these players. You don't expect FM to be back into this, and I mean, the one problem with this is the back-to-front composition from FM, meaning that they actually have to send everyone in all on the same page to actually find the elimination. PokerFace, they don't have that that limitation. Muse is going to be dancing around, and Ali going to go for eliminations, and all the while, Valentine can play very, very safely, poking out with sticky bombs and the focusing beat.
Yeah, Muse doesn't have to be nearly as committal as Dox. Look how low he already is. Finale into the back. What a stick on Slime! Beautiful work from Finale. There's Tracer coming to life on Ilios. He was already doing so well in the first round. He starts this one off no less hot. Easy cleanup here. Eventually. Come on. Get him. There we go.
What a silly fight.
I mean, PokerFace are just boot on the throat of FM already. We are on the second round of this series, and PokerFace are taking no prisoners.
And now you're staging to get into a dive now for FM is even more difficult, right? Because you have to take 2 layers of space that you wouldn't otherwise have to. Even as they walk in, yeah, there's the poke, forces the duplicate, a bad duplicate.
And Yapin was so scared of the nano on Valentine, immediately pops the duplicate. Does get a decent ante out of it, but the follow-up on Simple again just isn't there. Doc's too low and doesn't have the primal yet. We are 75%, and Dox hasn't been able to get the primal because he's been bullied so much. And that bullying won't stop. PokerFace, they gave away a measly 21% of the first round. They're not going to give away even a touch on the point here on Lighthouse.
Oh, they actually scout. I think they scouted Yapin too.
Yeah. That's just mean. At least let him trigger overtime.
They'll touch.
I mean, now Dox has to leap in though, use his bubble, right? Finally has a primal rage. Maybe he can stick around here, but would need to do something pretty miraculous. He's gonna try and hit Valentine off the edge, but that character can fly, and Valentine's doing just fine. Gurio, on the other hand, he cannot fly. I believe he got knocked off the edge there and tried to run back and couldn't quite make it. Another beautiful stick from Finale. I'm not sure he's missed a pulse bomb this match. Maybe 1 of 4 or 5. PokerFace, they're not missing either. A domination on Ilios.
21% and 1 touch is all they got on Ilios. And so now, hey, FM, they come into this composition, or they come into this game saying, we can play the Winston composition. It kind of worked. And then Poker says, no, you can't. This is what it looks like.
To be fair, though, I think there was a lot of work being done by the DPS, right? We were a little bit curious. You know, there's a lot of overlap in Finale and Valentine's pools, but the one difference between them is that Tracer that Finale was rocking, right? Proud, great hit scan player. Not historically much of a Tracer player. So when you go to Ilios and those flank compositions become so prevalent, Finale, he's doing what any Tracer player would love to be doing.
And I mean, the big thing right now is I don't necessarily see a standout player from PokerFace. And I don't mean that to say that there's no one playing well. I think they're all playing well.
They're all standing out so much that it's hard for one to be so much better than the others.
and I mean, coming into game number 2, now FM has to go back to the drawing board. This is also a statement game, right? We can play your comp better than you can.
Yeah, we'll see if map 2 has any better luck for FM after a break. A dominant map 1 from Poker Face, as we've come to expect from them, but that leaves FM in a bit of a conundrum. We head to Hybrid, and between Blizzard World, Midtown, and Kings Row, I'm not sure what the good option is.
There aren't any, right? Coming into this one for FM, there really aren't any good options. Because keep in mind, coming into this, right, whenever you play a composition that isn't quote unquote meta or the setup,
sure,
what ends up happening is that you need to be the best at it to have it work. If you come in and your opponent plays that composition better than you, all of a sudden your entire hand has been red. Because not only are they better at your comp, they can play the other composition that is supposedly stronger. And they have the flexibility to kind of move around multiple times. So even if you try and kind of break it with something out of left field, as we saw similarly in map number 1 with Orisa, that's just not available to you anymore. So it's not a great place for FM to be in, because no matter what they do, it feels like Poker Face has the answers right now.
Yeah, so as we go into our map number 2, it does seem that the selection from FM is going to be what we've seen the vast majority of thus far in Hybrid. I believe this is our 4th of 5 hybrids that has gone to Midtown. We saw them play the Winston here yesterday. Poker Face aren't going to match the Winston here, though. We've got some subs coming in. We've got Peppy coming in for Muse, Proud coming in for Valentine, and Karu actually coming in for Lego. This is the most confident sign I've ever seen that the composition is going to change.
Yeah, you're gonna see the double flex support from Poker Face. Likely the Iliari Baptiste backline. Probably gonna see Sigma. The other thing too is I was not convinced yesterday watching FM against Revival that the Winston was that strong on offense. It really felt that Revival got in their own head a couple of times, right? Giving up a ton of space to a Winston that didn't really earn it, and then kind of lost sight of the ult economy on their defense. On FM's defense, rather, trying to force the fight, which allowed for a quick retake by FM. So it felt less like FM won Midtown yesterday and more that their experience trumped their oppositions. Against a team like Poker Face, that is not going to happen. So the question is, can you play your composition so well you can take down the Sigma that has been the de facto pick here on Midtown?
Okay, Proud, the Widowmaker's funny, but, you know, you got 15 seconds. Swap with the Sojourn already. There it is. Exactly as we expect from Poker Face here. The BAP Iliari in the backline, and FM, they have brought Scarlet in. This is a telltale sign that they want to run the Genji. Scarlet's Genji was a menace yesterday. So if there was one good swap to make here, I do believe this is it.
Oh, I mean, the appetite was wet yesterday. Bible. And they handle the main course.
Yeah, truly. It is a big entree that they are trying to stuff down their gullet here. You can see Finale doing pretty much what we've seen the majority of Echoes do, try and keep control of this alleyway. No one assisting Finale for now. That can spell some difficulties. Simple finally comes over, gets isolated, and that's a beautiful dive. Great recognition by FM. Simple didn't have anywhere to go after using that movement ability. Finale and Peppy, Proud. They aren't too unhappy with it, though. They'll gladly give up Simple for a moment. Scarlet gets away for a second and get the mini health pack. No supports for the moment for Poker Face Iliari. Yeah, Simple still has to come back here. So some space at least gained for FM.
Problem is now you have an isolated Genji in a corner with a break, and those are not going to be able to set up a true dive on their own. You can already see, look how much damage Doc's taken. He's trying to approach into the objective.
Yeah, that fire truck isn't big enough for Winston to hide behind. With only 50% on the primal right now, Docs cannot press the issue. Scarlet pressed into fine powder as Proud smashes him across the face with the railgun. And now, I mean, FM, they're trying to step up. Right, they got Gurio, Slime, and Docs here, but that leaves KHD out in the open, and there's no way that FM can siege from this room currently. Finale just dives in to the top of it, gets rid of Gurio, and slowly the dominoes fall.
I was not convinced by the Soldier yesterday, and I dislike it even more today. The problem with the Soldier, right, is again, the problem with actually most compositions that run a player like Soldier is that there's not a lot of burst damage, and it means that Poker Face have the advantage, not just in sort of sustained damage with the Echo. They have burst opportunity in the Echo and the Sojourn. So even if you try and like kind of poke them out, they will win that fight, and then they will beat you just when they have the rail up or they have the focusing beam up.
Don't need to win such a long war of attrition. The only burst they have is a blade. Scarlet able to make one happen. Beautiful little deflect there, but can't go chasing after Brown. Has to let Dox do the work instead. Happy, hello? While his team is falling all around him, he's just picking up one by one by one. Ain't afraid. Don't need supports or DPS. He'll do it himself. Okay, Finale gets to help a little.
What an expensive fight that was really never won by FM. Sure, the blade was flashy on that first pick, but you weren't able to chase down any further players. And on all the while, Peppy gets nano copied, and they use the Captive Sun on top of it all. While you lose that war of attrition, you end up being in a worse position to be backed up. And PokerFace in last fight here, 50 seconds, have every tool they need to close this one down.
A rally to try and hard force the objective. Oh, what a sleep. It does get woken up though. Doc's back into, oh no, it doesn't. UI glitch. He's not in the fray. He'll be in the fray now. Scarlet, not so much. So Dox is making things happen. Happy. Yeah, that nano doesn't last long enough. It was just a duplicated one. Gurio trying to give him the runaround here. And now the reinforcements come in from FM. Slowly they're hunting down these stragglers. But again, this war of attrition, how long will it take? Eventually, FM have seemed to stabilize. Only 15 seconds as they cap and go into the second point.
The hero of this play is actually Dox, who uses Primal Rage to shut down 2 ultimates. Even though he gets slept, he did his job and got rid of the overclock from Proud, and then on top of that, he duplicated Ana rather, spent more time kind of handling, was focusing on Winston more than anything else. And so yeah, Winston absolutely finding value there. 1 fight out of 5, though, is not going to expel well for the rest of this map, so we'll see how well they're able to close it out here.
They won't even get 5 more unless they can make this next one count. Karu getting run down. No way to assist the Ana there. The question is, will it cost Dox a lot? Oh man, Peppy's trying to move forward. He's got a Gravitic Flux in his pocket, but with so many down, I don't feel like this is going to be one of the crazy clutches. Although, maybe it will. He gets rid of Dox. Hold on. 5 HP, 5! Kinetic Grasp, he gets behind a wall. Scarlet's going forward, trying to chase him down, and Deflect desperately wants to get rid of Peppy, and eventually does. A blade at the ready. Scarlet doesn't want to use it now, though. Instead, we'll save it for one more fight on second.
Scarlet has absolutely become on one on this map. An absolute carry performance. Oh,
that's the only reason the Soldier 76 is somewhat viable, is because it's Gurio at the helm of it. The dude looks like he's got tac visor on all the time. Here comes Finale. He'll get rid of that problem before getting put to bed for a quick nap. I'd be trying to charge in over to the Orisa now, and PokerFace get rid of all the map control. FM took so much for them to garner.
And I mean, here is a disaster territory for FM. They desync the Nano Blade, which means that Scarlet, as good as he has been mechanically in the neutral, is going to struggle to find value out of the Dragon Blade. And I think now, even with the Orisa is a good pick. You can't just dive them down on the Winston any further. FM, despite having ultimates this last fight, it feels like that they just won't have the punching power to get through the HP sustained PokerFace has at their beck and call.
40 seconds remain. At least 2 fights to take. Scarlet needs something now. Here comes Finale into the backline, going for the duplicate, slapped out of it, and Peppy charging all the way into enemy territory. That javelin spin only works one way, buddy. An overinvestment, an over-aggression from PokerFace, and it's promptly punished.
There's a fair misstep. Phase 2. Kind of just fumble a fight there. Finale misses every shot before the duplicate gets slept instantly, so great heads-up play by KHD, and yeah, Peppy tries to play Gatekeeper, instead gets taken down. Last fight, though, PokerFace will have a recontest. They will have the overclock, and I think Simple should be able to build back to his Captive Sun.
So much available for FM, though. Scarlet using the blade to chase down the backline. Karu falls. Now Proud's on the menu. Scarlet picking himself up. Effectively a 2-piece there. Just have to be a little bit careful. Still 3 standing strong. A Terra Surge and a Captive Sun. Nothing quite comes out of it. PokerFace, they've invested all they can. 3 ults dumped into this fight, but in overtime, FM are looking to charge into the last stages of the map. It's been a slog, but they're not done with their attack just yet.
Tremendous stuff from FM. One of the hard things about being a new team, or being a less experienced team coming in against a team as strong as PokerFace, is the fact that confidence plays a big part of it, right? Especially after getting iced out so badly on the first objective. To be able to kind of acknowledge the overstep that PokerFace made and then punish them for it is a big deal. Remember I said that Blade is going to have a hard time without the nano? Well, KHD built up to one very quickly and put them and solved that problem very, very easily. Now PokerFace, despite having a minute left, they've given up so much of the map that they did not expect to. FM are really, really pleased with the performance that's happened.
That was a nice anti from Karu, forcing Docs back. Didn't want to pop the Primal so early. Wants to invest a little bit further. Scarlet not going to be able to dive into the backline with him, though. So Docs, again, opting to save the Primal and just try to go for a soft reset. PokerFace are forcing the issue, though. They won't let FM get away. And with 30 seconds left, it'll be a dire final fight.
Tell the difference between these two teams. At their best, PokerFace is clearly 5 steps ahead. The problem is that PokerFace at times has understood that they're so far ahead and has just made curious plays that they think they can get away with. And FM has punished it. Now with 13 seconds left, it may have been that they've run out of runway. PokerFace has both support ultimates and the Dragon Blade. This should be a closeout by PokerFace.
Hard to imagine something doesn't happen here. Scarlet's been flashing with the blade, but now it's Finale's turn. Couldn't quite find Gurio to start, but a nice pick on KHD gives him the opportunity to go for the other support. Yeah, FM, they're not doing half bad themselves. Tactical, oh no, it's not a tactical visor. Again, it's just Gurio. Nano for him, but he can't make it all happen. Scarlet chasing up into the air, but expelled away from Simple. And Docs will not stand for long. Honestly, though, considering how much of a problem both first and second were for FM, can't be unhappy with that push.
No, you're very pleased if you're FM with that push. And I think actually genuinely an improvement over yesterday's performance against Revival too. Yesterday their fights looked a little labored and struggled to identify targets they wanted to chase down. I recall, right, Scarlet using the Nano Blade yesterday and running into a Zarya with both bubbles up and just not finding any value here on Midtown. Now, though, on this map, the target selection has been impeccable. And in large part, once they broke through first point, they were able to make it this far. And the shoe's on the other foot now, right? PokerFace, they were expected to full hold. They looked like they were going to full hold with how dominant their performance was on A. And they just kept giving up points on the map. Again, in large part due to their own overconfidence in approaching some of the fights that FM punished them for.
Yeah, that one fight where the Orisa was charging essentially into the enemy spawn was bizarre. I know Pepe had a pretty great map, don't get me wrong, or at least has thus far. Not 1v9ing charging headlong into the enemy though. Not so much. Back to the Sigma now for Pepe and PokerFace.
Gurio has to be really careful. That burst damage conversation is definitely a factor here. And can only run away so far. You don't have nearly as much space control if you run the Sigma. Okay. Pepe's not known for his Winston. Good. He is not on his Winston. Good. He's.
Yeah, that would have been a bizarre decision. I mean, this one's still a little bit odd. We've seen some Orisa comps try to attack the second point. The problem I always have is really slow. It can be such a long rotation to try and get from the train car into the side room, into the into the mega pack room, and then out onto the point. And by the time you're there, you've lost half your team. It's going fine for PokerFace thus far. Oh, now I mean that's just spectacular. Doc's not able to get out there, and now it's just a question of what do PokerFace want to kill, and how long will it take them to do so. Answer to both of those things: everything, and not very long.
We are on the same track, as I had the same thought in my brain. Set the same way. They're a recontest.
Only took us 4 years to finally get on the same page, LeVon.
Docs is posturing for a recontest. No, okay, surely no.
No. I mean, Gurio was, in, I don't know, what's really far from New York? He was in Los Angeles, sure, we'll go with that. He was very far away from the objective, that's what I was trying to get at. So instead, it'll be a 5-minute plus time bank here for PokerFace going into the second objective. Finale, a little bit isolated. I think he's going to lose this. Yeah, Scarlet was full health. So, Finale, not having too much fun there. And Simple, a little bit caught out. Doc's trying to come down and get rid of that enemy Uyari, or at least force Simple back. Problem is, without Finale, there's not much of a way to really remove Dox and Scarlet from these positions of power that they sit on.
The question is, can you keep the cart moving? Because eventually they will have to reset.
Oh my, okay, well, Nano invested here. Dox not able to get much out of it though, and Slime's having a tough time just tanking Peppy's damage. Dox and KHD trying to get in the enemy backline. They'll get rid of both of the supports. So now if they can keep their own alive, they should be nice and dandy for the rest of this fight. Scarlet confused as to where he wants to focus, but eventually will berate Finale to exit the fight.
Very passive face here, waiting for your supports to respawn. Man, the Winston and the Genji getting caught up here. Ooh, Scarlet has to be so careful.
Dox, ooh, trying to dive in. Primal. Oh my word. He hung on to low health for so long in that bubble. Now is trying to get rid of Proud, but no, will be healed up and expelled from the enemy position. It does force the Nano out though, so that's not available for Finale now. For him to try and pull out this blade instead of Bomb. Oh no, it doesn't make it to the high ground. 2 ults invested, 3 from Poker Face, and not a thing gained. Meanwhile, Scarlet's just carving up the back line and doing a phenomenal job at it.
What a fantastic blade there from Scarlet to close that one out. But again, a misplay by Poker Face. I mean, I saw what Proud was trying to do, jump up towards the bomb in the air. Instead, it goes down below the Midtown tunnel. All of a sudden, I mean, it's looking a little bit dicey for Poker Face. It feels like they don't have any way to actually get in. And speaking of in, FM just heading directly to the spawn here.
I mean, Dox does get speared into a wall there. But there's so much space for Poker Face to try and make up right now. Scarlet's not afraid to just dance around here. If he dies, he'll be back in plenty of time for the real fight, and he actually lets the rest of his team get away.
I want to tell the Flex DPS and tank players that the opponent spawned on the attacker spawn on Midtown is not a great place to be.
I mean, it costs FM a lot less than it costs Poker Face to be there, though.
Yeah.
Proud now up on the high ground. Dox doesn't like that. He'll try to get rid of it. Nano in hand a little bit late. Nano comes as Dox lands, and Proud was already out of danger. Simple using the captive stun and keeping his support duo alive, too. Deep dive from FM, but it ends up being a 1-for-1. Peppy doesn't have the opportunity to double back to the high ground because he's on the Orisa, though. So Simple and Karu just have to look at each other and try to heal. Finale needs to pressure this backline, so good job pulling out the blade and cutting up a couple of FM.
Man, that is an unbelievable blade from Finale. One good turn deserves another, I suppose. You're not done here.
Now has a Nano. Oh my word, only barely survives there because of the ante thrown out by KHD, but he will be able to keep himself in the fray. Finale desperately trying to get rid of Scarlet. Scarlet's movement's so good, though. We highlighted it yesterday. Eventually falls, and that is the second point going over. FM, they fought valiantly on this defense, but it's looking to be all in vain.
I mean,
okay, I thought Guria was going to get chased there.
The thing is, if those eliminations had come through, that would have been the game over for FM here on map 2. Instead, it is a possibility, a chance to reset. Not a big one. They will likely have to overspend, but a chance nonetheless.
3 minutes to hold mere
Someone touch
for Poker Face. Scarlet's there. Dox has a primal. Okay, the touch will come through. A Bob chucked into the backline though, and with Scarlet already down, he didn't even get his blade out. Gurio, it's all on you. Tack visor like aim, tack visor literal aim, and he'll manage to clean up a couple. Peppy's stuck out in no man's land, won't be able to do much more. But so many more fights to win just like that.
One saving grace is that they don't actually have to use the Nano in that one, and Scarlet is forced to keep the blade in the back pocket. The opportunity to get this map back for FM is slim. It's going to require winning a Nano Blade fight cleanly while getting ultimates away from Poker Face and then kind of rotating your own back into contention. However, that is a very, very small window, and one that seems to have vanished already.
All the focus there. I mean, Scarlet eventually finds his mark despite an energy javelin, a coach gun, an attempted sleep. Will not be denied.
Well, there are 2 minutes left, and Poker Face lost that fight so quickly that they did not feel the need to actually use any resources. The play for Poker Face now is generate 5, dump them all at once, and have FM just have to force a touch, right? A single pickoff here is going to be an absolute disaster, and they have nothing. There is absolutely no resources from FM. It is all neutral from here on out.
FM have been spending these ults on food to survive, but now they don't got enough money for rent. Poker Face looking to a victim here. Aerosurge in the pocket. It's hard to even stand on the objective when Peppy has that at the ready. And even if you do go to the objective, Captive Sun looking for a target, it'll focus on Slime, but won't be able to finish him off. An overinvestment on the timing there. Okay, simple finale, they'll get it done. It was labored. A Poker Face are up 2-0.
It does not matter in the annals of history, Paul. They will take the victory. It will be a 2-0. It will be match point. And now FM, they make it close. They put other teams on notice, sure. But for this particular one, it has not gotten easier. They head to map number 3. Boy, they are looking for something, anything to actually go in their favor confidently this series.
And you know, when it was looking like there was a chance that FM were going to hold on that second point and maybe force Poker Face out of their comfort zone a little, even then I was a little bit worried because, you know, that was when we were playing around with Pepe's hero pool. He's not winning the Sigma that he clearly got subbed in. Oh, I just punched my mic stand. Ow. Clearly got subbed in to want to play, right? And then I was like, okay, sure, you forced Poker Face to be uncomfortable and you still lost. So now what's the game plan, right?
Well, we head to Flashpoint next, and if there's ever a time where Scarlet can really be unleashed, I think it is going to be on this map type. And I think the biggest change is going to have to be Scarlet. You are the carry player for FM, and you have to play like it. And I think for the other thing too is that for Poker Face, they now recognize that Scarlet was on one on Midtown. Expect the pressure to be dialed up on that flex DPS just ever so much more. And now the question for FM to turn this one around is, can they keep Scarlet in play? Poker Face, the shutdown is very much in conversation.
And you know, against other Genjis, I would trust Scarlet. He was even getting the better of Finale at times, but Finale still more than consistent enough, and his DPS duo across the, you know, to the side of him, I guess, not across him, but to the side of him. Proud is still doing really well, even when Bobs go the wrong direction. Proud is hitting all the shots he needs to, and Griot's hit scan pool is looking like more of a curse than a benefit at this point, right? You know, we've seen a lot of Soldier, we've seen some Tracer's not really his thing either, so a lot of questions for FM will have to be answered when we go to Flashpoint after a break. FM with some great moments and great blades on map number 2, but great isn't enough when you're going up against the best, which is what Poker Face are seeming to be in our fall series. They've 3-0'd yesterday, or Monday or whatever it was, and today it's looking like a pretty similar story. Taking no prisoners, Poker Face. We go on to Flashpoint next.
You go on to Flashpoint next, and I think the one thing here is that, I mean, we talked about this at the top of the second map, right? Where it's like, okay, you don't really have any confidence coming in when you're forced to play mirror and you get beaten in your mirror on the composition that is out of meta, right? Then you come in, you force Poker Face onto the back foot for a little bit, for a couple points, but it feels labored, right? And now, and you know, to put it in perspective, Midtown was closer. It still wasn't close. There were still 2 minutes left when they completed the map. So it's not done and dusted yet. We do head to Flashpoint. This is an oft-made point made by virtue of experience, but this is the point, the map, that can be taken away by a team that is struggling because of how chaotic it is. Part of that is because of how fast the map is, right? The point captures so much more quickly than control. The second, of course, is that they are new maps, and so not everything has been cemented. They are not solved in terms of how you want to approach them, and there we go. We get a look at what of the 2 maps it is. It is going to be New Junk City. Not really a surprise. This is what was the map that actually was won yesterday by FM, so not a surprise if we go here a second.
Yep, no surprise at all. It'll only be surprising if FM manages to swing this one. Poker Face really not interested in giving up maps here. It seems to me, you know, they've gone first both the days that they've played, and they've 3-0'd really quickly. It seems to me that they have somewhere to be. You know, they got
second round of playoffs.
Somewhere.
Second round of playoffs.
I guess. We do see that New Junk City is one of those maps where mobility compositions are a little bit more common, right? So that Winston, undoubtedly coming back into the mix here for FM. Some swaps in for Poker Face, Muse, Valentine, Lego, they all come back in here because turns out Poker Face actually want to play the Zarya.
Actually, the Reaper here is a big look, and I mean we've seen Reaper in the Zarya, but Reaper and Zarya go well together. I do think the Reaper here instead of the Genji is interesting, notably because they know it's going to be a Winston on the opposite side. Right? Genji is very good, but can be pressured out by that tank player. So this way, we expect to see a head-to-head battle between the tanks, and you expect to see Valentine in with Muse trying to just pressure Dox down.
I think I would have liked to have seen Gurio actually save that disruption shield to something a little bit more aggressive. That slow is so important, and now it's not there to keep Poker Face at bay. Look, I mean, Dox has to try and dive in, and Scarlet's not really getting much. Proud with a nice pickup on Slime, too, and it's over before it really begins. I don't know about that TP, Valentine. You deserve to go down there, but it's Poker Face at the end of the day either way.
Well, here's an interesting, I think, juxtaposition between how this comp is played by Poker Face and how it was played yesterday versus by Revival, right? And I think it's educational, if only because FM, this is a very similar comp to what they saw yesterday. The difference is they weren't able to get in on the backline. Look how passively Lego and Simple are playing, just so out of out of the area to kind of find value. That just allows Muse and Valentine to take space. Dox is dead.
This is Lego and Simple actually on their two best characters, right? Simple is a flex support, does kind of play it all, but back when he was on Uprising Academy last year, back when everyone was like, oh my word, Simple is the truth, it was this Kiriko that he was really feasting with. KHD historically has performed best on Ana, so things get a little bit uncomfortable in the backline here for FM going into this. Obviously, Slime Tracer, you knew that already.
Speaking of just how chaotic we're in last fight on first point.
Yeah, Kitsune Rush is traded, but a grab locks up Dox, and he doesn't have even halfway to a primal by the time that comes out. Unbelievable Poker Face. Again, just not interested in giving FM a chance.
And here's where I think FM needs to start considering, hey, maybe change things up. It is on Arena as our first point, so maybe it's a little bit different as we head into. This looks like a junkyard. Yeah. Oh no, that's not the change I meant. No.
Took you a second to process it. The Doomfist Dox coming out here. This was something he played a little bit of yesterday. It didn't work well then, and I don't think it's going to work too well against Poker Face either. Although Gurio with a nice shot on Lego. That's an opening. Muse is easier to pin down now. So Proud using the overclock, trying to isolate and separate FM. Not able to pick off anyone though. Gurio gets up to a high ground with an overclock of his own. Valentine with another ambitious TP. Manages to get behind though this time. And that gives Proud his opening to charge forward. Muse just keeping Gurio and Dox at bay too. He's such high energy. Dox can't stand next to him for long. Beat being thrown in for just two players. Slime says it's winnable, but is that actually the case? No, not at all. A few % gained for FM. Dox will hang around till about 25, but no more than that.
I think trading the most expensive ultimate in the game for 4% of a flashpoint is actually a good trade.
Worth.
I mean, FM.
In case anyone, that's sarcasm.
Ooh, all right, another good
pick though. No sarcasm needed.
Well, we saw how this fight looked last time. Even a pickup on Lego.
You can see Valentine was trying to do the solo Q Reaper move. Bro, you can't just walk at him. That's Gurio. He's got an Overwatch League title, and Scarlet's got his back. A blade out and a pretty easy fight win for FM.
Okay, this is the sort of calculus of Overwatch. What is a fight? And the question.
Calculus, that's philosophy.
Hold on. When do you start counting when a fight starts and ends? A lot of times first pick is a big one. This is now back-to-back times where Gurio has found the Lucio and ended it before it even began.
Dox trying to do the same thing with Proud that time around. Kitsune Rush used now, but a grab locks them up, and Muse is happy to farm all that damage coming from the Kitsune Rush into his bubbles. Two quick fights, but they flip either way, and we'll get one more here.
And now, I mean, this feels like it's over on this point again for FM, unless Gurio and Scarlet have to pull magic just somewhere, right? There is no ultimates to speak of, and for Poker Face, big one is Lego. The sound barrier needs to be used here, and that will close out the point.
Lego, whatever you do, don't peek Gurio this time. Just keep your head down, buddy. Okay, he's in a much safer position now. Although Scarlet's trying to make his way through the center of the map and find Lego. Lego down to half health, but manages to get rid of Scarlet with some help. and retreat to safety here. Dox gets a touch on the objective, so FM technically have a chance, but that chance is dwindling. Gurio, the only one trying to keep the odds of it alive, but no, with Dox falling, there's just no way to even touch the point. That's second for Poker Face.
And I mean, you're gonna get a very staggered pick. Solo death loss would be funny.
It would have been funny.
Fortunately, amusement is not really what Poker Face are.
How dare they try to win?
Refinery next.
Yeah.
This is problematic for FM because they have to meet Poker Face halfway. Wait, where? They just kind of let that, like ships in the night, just kind of wave at each other. Oh, this is a powerful Poker Face. I like this a lot.
Poker Face get back to a very solid spot here. I mean, look at the angles that Crowd is going to be working with. KHD had no clue what was about to hit him. Gurio bouncing up and down, trying to find something of equal value, but with Valentine right there and bubbled too, there's just no shot. No shot. FM gone once again.
Oh, that was ultimates used for FM too. Ugh. And actually nothing used by Poker Face. Oh no.
This is what we wanted from Poker Face. This is what we expect of them. The team that made it the furthest in the Overwatch League knockouts other than O2 Blast, who don't return to Contenders this season. Poker Face want to be the best. They want to prove they are still the best. That starts with Lego not dying. Okay, there we go. We're good on that one. Manages to get out of there, and Valentine just giving free charge over to Muse. Already has a grab. Is getting tons of energy too. I mean, where do you go here for FM? Scarlet needs something with a blade. He's been a hero for them thus far, but Slime locked up, forced to use the sound barrier. Scarlet, it's now or never, buddy. He's good for one. Lego's down, no beat now for Poker Face in this fight. Chopping at some bubbles and into the air, but it's enough. That Blossom not curving the fight back around either. And just in the nick of time, FMs get back into the game.
That has been a truly spectacular run from FM, and that's with Poker Face investing a lot. 3 ultimates, in fact, by Poker Face. Those Grav, Blossom, and Kitsune. And the big one, the one checkmark that needed to be used and wasn't, Lego gets pulled down by Scarlet. It's not over yet, but still, I mean, not looking great for FM despite that fantastic fight. They still have sound barrier to sustain, and on top of that, FM had nothing to bring to the table.
Peel back to Poker Face, know what their openings are and what is not among them. Too much damage, they disengage, and now they come back with an overclock to clear space. And when FM come back up to try and contest the objective, that's when the beat drops. And Scarlet, he doesn't know how to dance to it. AHD, he's trying to dip and dive and jive, but no. Also insufficient. Valiant effort on this third and final point from FM, but it'll be a third and final point in the series for Poker Face. In just a matter of moments, Dox trying to stall, he at least triggers the overtime, but once that block's gone, so is he. And Poker Face gets yet another 3-0.
Couple of commanding statements made all the way throughout, as well as Poker Face. I mean, here's the thing, right? It said if you're gonna play the Zarya, you have to be the best. It seems that in this particular meta, Poker Face in Group A is that team to watch out for. And then even when forced to flex over, and I use forced in quotation marks, when given the opportunity to flex over, are more than willing to play your game and beat you at it too. Poker Face have now become, I mean, the team to beat here in Group A. They complete another 3-0. And not only that, by the way, they have only given up in the entirety of their first 2 matches 2 points.
That's insane. That is unbelievable stuff from Poker Face. Look, with that too, I mean, considering both of their first games of 3-0s, not only is playoffs almost a 100% guarantee for them, they would have to not get another map, I think, mathematically, to not make it into playoffs, and then a lot of other things would have to go weirdly. But it's looking pretty likely that they're going to be our first seed now. They already took down the other knockouts team in this group without blinking an eye, without breaking a sweat. Now FM falls. The only real competition on the mantle you have to imagine is Zero. We'll see if they're up to the task later on, I believe next week. But first things first, I mean, what a statement here from Poker Face. And with pretty much their whole roster too, right?
Yeah.
You know, Poker Face has one of the larger rosters in Contenders Korea. We see everybody except Spinel today. Phenomenal stuff. I mean, Simple was the only one who played all.
And we said it, this is in map number 1. There is no one who came in and it's like, everyone was performing to a very high level, right? Just
What's
a
the
very
highest level was Finale.
The end of it all, I suppose. The pulse bombs on map 1 were spectacular. I mean, there's another. Poor Sly.
I feel like Finale missed the memo. He skipped acts 1 and 2 and went straight to the end. Map 1, he was already putting FM in the ground.
I mean, this is one of the reasons why this map is so, Midtown specifically, is that when you have a player like Finale able to kind of clutch it out in the back pocket, I mean, FM got a taste of their own medicine from yesterday, right? Think they've won a fight, and no, you have not. Playing the first 2 maps with ease, and across a wealth of heroes too, right? Not just sort of one trick, which we sometimes see in certain metas. We saw the Echo really strong, the Genji really strong, the Tracer really strong, and so, you know, Finale, I mean, more than earned these honors.
And that's what we wanted to see from Finale. I mean, back all the way in like the Contenders spring stage, right? When Finale was on this team of Poker Face, then he was a hard carry, right? Like a put Finale in or you're not going to win the map kind of carry. Now he's got an even stronger team around him and he looks so good back in Contenders. Love to have him back. Love for him to be doing so well and for Poker Face to really be getting what feels like, I don't want to say they deserve, because no one deserves to win anything, right? But what they've earned.
Yes, and that is, I think, the bigger thing here. I mean, talking about Finale, sort of that hyper carry performance. Now he gets to just be saying supporting cast is probably underselling him a little bit, but allows him to thrive in an environment that actually makes sense, right? For the first time, I think Poker Face, every player is given just enough space to do what they need to carry, but no more. They don't actually need to do that carrying part because their support partner is there to kind of back them up. And this is something we've seen from Contenders Korea teams in the past. I mean, when everyone has an opportunity to play inside their role, they do so phenomenally well. The last team that we saw do it to such a high level was O2 Blast back in, you know, their flawless days. So
was a couple of different O2 Blasts.
Yes, yes. So to kind of take that mantle, I think, and put themselves in unrivaled territory, not only puts Group A on notice, but really the entirety of the region. I think Poker Face firmly has that that opportunity locked in for them.
Yeah, one knockout team doing great. We'll see how Euphoria and SPG fare against each other when we come back from a quick break.